start recording. There we go. I'm gonna continue letting everybody in. So while you guys are getting set up, I'm gonna show you my palette real quick so you can start dumping out your paint so that you can make your palette. I like to set my palette up like a color wheel. So I have my yellows together. I know those of you with ultimate kits, you do not have this light yellow, and that's totally fine. This is probably the only time we're ever gonna use this yellow. I don't have any more of it to give. So I just thought we'd use it up in this painting just as an option. An easy thing you can do though with your golden yellow is just mix white to it. So you'll just make a lighter yellow, okay? So anyway, we have my yellows. I have green, blue, a little bit of red, black. I'm gonna call this red brown. And I'm gonna call this my dark brown, followed by white over here. And you don't have to dump out all of your paint from your little tubs. Save some of it in case you do decide that you're gonna take a break tonight and continue tomorrow. Or, you know, just so that you have extra paint. It's just good to have extra paint for any number of reasons, okay? So just, I don't know, like maybe dump out like 50% of your paint and you can always go back and get more. That way you can always do another painting too. If this goes really well and you love painting, you have more paint to play with. So you should also have two brushes. You should have a background brush, which is a nice wide brush. It's probably bigger than this one. I gave out all of my background brushes, so I'm just gonna paint my background with a slightly smaller brush, which will probably work in your favor because it'll take me longer and allow you more time on your background. But then you should also have a size 5 round brush. So it's just a nice round one. So those of you with ultimate kits, this is what we're using tonight, okay? I like to set my workspace up with my canvas in front of me, like so. I have my paper towel next to me with my brushes, and then I put my cup of water right up here, okay? So it's all right next to me. I'm right-handed, so I just have everything right here that I can grab. And then I put my palette right here. So all my mixing and everything can happen right here. My painting can happen here. And I have plenty of space to kind of move and do what I need to do, okay? All right. Well, very cool. Well, if everybody is set up, I'm gonna go across the board here and just kind of look at those of you who are here with me and just see that y'all are set up. I'm gonna give you a minute or two. Hey, Misty, let me unmute, or maybe you need to unmute. Hang on, I don't think I have anybody muted.
Can we see the color plate again? I had to leave the room for a second.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Hang on, let me get back over. Misty too, I also sent this in, I think I sent this in Messenger too. So anybody with an ultimate paint kit, I did send this to you in Messenger. I'm so sorry if I missed you. Misty, I may have missed you.
You sent it to me. I just had a question about that light yellow, but I'll let you talk.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the light yellow is not in your ultimate kit. This is just the last of the light yellow that I have in the studio, and I just included it in the kits that people could pick up just as an option to use tonight. So those of you with ultimate kits, just mix a light yellow, white and yellow together, just to mix a lighter yellow. If you want even, I mean, you could even put like a smidge of a green, like literally like a little dot, if you just wanted something that was just different than your golden yellow, but it's not going to make a difference in your painting. It'll be totally fine. I just wanted to get rid of this yellow, so I thought, why not paint sunflowers and get rid of this yellow? So I was running out of room on my
Now, do we have a lot of blue in this? Because I don't think I have any blue.
Okay, you know what? I'm really glad you said that, because there was one kit, and tell me if there's more out there, you guys. We moved kits around. If you don't have blue, Natalie, you don't have blue, that's okay. That's gonna be.
I don't have blue either.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. Who is that? So Natalie doesn't. Vicky, you don't have blue.
I don't have blue.
Okay. Mabry's group doesn't have blue. Okay.
I don't have blue either.
Okay. That's gonna be okay. What we're gonna do when we get to our echinacea flowers, is we'll either have to just like mix like more of a pinky color, because I know everybody has red, I'll problem solve that as we teach. I'm sorry about that, you guys. Things just got a little bit crazy here this week.
I think I may have some blue in my, because I have some paint, so I may just use
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. And then Natalie, and those of you like Mabry's group, I know y'all have painted with me before. If I don't know if by chance you happen to have any leftover blue, that would be cool. Otherwise, y'all, I'm super sorry about that. All we're using the blue for is those purpley echinacea flowers. So, and those flowers can be any color that you want. So I'll teach it as like a pinky color, okay? That way everybody's on the same board. And when we start mixing those colors, you can use any colors you want. But yeah, if you have blue paint, cool, put it on your palette. And once again, I'm really sorry about that, guys. Okay, I think maybe I just got too excited about having 2 yellows and I forgot blue or something, or I don't know. I don't know what happened. So real quick, I'm just gonna tell you guys, I know a lot of you know this, but those of you who are new painters with me tonight, that we're gonna be using acrylic paint. And this particular kind of acrylic paint, for the sake of the class, we're not gonna be mixing it with water. So I know the tendency is to get all ready and dunk your paintbrush in your water and then start swirling around in your paint. Try to avoid doing that for 2 reasons. Like I said before, I'm gonna try to teach this in 2 hours. And in order to do that, we need our paint to dry quickly. And when you start mixing water with your paint, it's just gonna take a lot longer to dry. So try to avoid doing that. If you're painting at home, by yourself, not trying to get through the class with me tonight, experiment with water. You're more than welcome to, especially those of you with ultimate kits. You have your own paint, so you can experiment with that and see what you can do. But for the sake of the class and getting through it, it'll dry a lot quicker if you don't mix water, okay? Let's see, also I think y'all know this, but it's not super washable, so be careful. Let's see, other than that, I think that's all I really have to say. I always think of things later, so there's that, okay? All right, so just double checking, we are recording. And I did say it before, I don't know if everybody was here, but I am gonna try to teach a little bit more slowly tonight, and I'm gonna give you more time in between the steps to do what I'm teaching. And so because of that, our class may be a little bit longer than 2 hours. Right now it's 7:15. I'm gonna try to end us at about 9:15. It might go over just a little bit more, but if at any time you're just feeling too tired or you just need a break, take that break. Paint tomorrow. I'm gonna be recording this and so I can send it to you. And you can pick right back up where you left off tonight, okay? All right. Okay, so I guess it looks like everybody is kind of finishing setting up, looking good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. If you have not muted yourself, please go ahead and do that. I'm not gonna mute you all. That way you can unmute if you have to say something to me without doing a crazy dance or something. I think that would just be a little bit easier for everybody. And if you haven't changed your name, go ahead and change your name for me so that I know. Looks like everybody has. Just so I know who I'm talking to and I can start putting names to these tiny little faces I have up at the top of my screen, okay? Okay, so let me show you the painting. That's another thing. If you have it, if you have like your phone or an iPad or another computer, I would go to the Humble Life page and I would pull this painting up so that you have it for reference. That way you can kind of take a look at it because I can't always keep it on the screen for you while I'm teaching. My elbows go crazy and my arms move and I do a lot of movement. So having it right here is just a little bit crowded for me. So if you can, go ahead and just pull it up so that you can watch too, but I do show it to you quite often, okay? It just might not be as often as you would like. So I'll do my best there as well, okay? All right, you guys, so I think it's time for us to get going. We're gonna get started. We're gonna start with our background first, so we're gonna start with our largest brush, okay? A note on the background, you can make your background whatever you want, okay? I have painted it as like a darker brown fence. You can make a gray fence. You can make a light brown fence. You can do whatever you want, however you wanna do your background. You could leave your background white and just do the sunflowers and the echinacea flowers, whatever it is that you want. So I'm going to teach the fence background, and you can apply this technique to any color scheme. So if you wanted to do grays, when I'm talking about browns, you would just simply use white and black. Okay, and I would suggest easy on the black at first until you can really get used to your paint, get used to your paintbrush, and you can see how dark you're getting, because you want to be nice and light when you're using that black. Okay, it's pretty intense. Okay, all right. So here we go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start just by taking our large brush and getting into our palette here. I'm going to show you mine and what I'm going to do. The background is made up of 3 or 4 different colors, actually. It's made up of the black, the red brown, the dark brown, and the white, okay? So what I do just to first kind of get going and get started is I'm going to take my brush, and you guys have a bigger brush than I do, which is great. You need that. I'm going to take these 2 browns and kind of push them together here, right in the middle, okay? And get those on my brush. Okay, so I have a nice goopy brush. I'm gonna grab a little bit of white just to start. A little bit of white's on my brush now too. Okay, so I call that being marbled. So I have a nice marbled color here, which means it's not fully mixed. Let me adjust here so you guys can see me well. Okay, and now I'm gonna start applying it to my background. Now you wanna make sure that your canvas is in portrait position. This is landscape, which you might wanna paint tonight, but I'm gonna paint in portrait, okay? And what we're gonna do, it's very important that you use your full arm to paint brush strokes that start at the top and they go all the way to the bottom, okay? We want long movements, long brush strokes up and down. Now I'm gonna show you this up close. Can you see all the variation that is in my color? That's because my paintbrush, I let it be marbled, okay? I have a big gob of paint and it's very marbled. So when I start pressing it to the canvas, I get a really great range of color. So that's very important for our background right now. Now I ran out of paint on my brush, so every time I do that, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna pick up just a slightly different version of what I did the last time. So maybe I'm gonna pick up a little bit more dark brown this time, and I'm gonna start applying it to my canvas. And like I said, try your hardest to start at the top and go all the way to the bottom. You wanna be painting these full, thick panels of wood, okay? So we're gonna start working on that. I'm gonna give you guys some time to just travel back and forth across your canvas. I want you to paint your top edge so you can wrap around. I want you to paint your side edges and your bottom edges, okay? So all 4 of your edges should be painted by the time you're done. All right, and I want you to work with red brown, dark brown, and white. I will advise though, with the white, if you use too much of it, okay, it will start turning that red brown slightly pink, okay? So I just took some of that brown and I just started streaking it, or some of that white and started streaking it in here just to kind of see, okay? Don't be afraid to just grab white and grab it in there and streak it, okay? It will do a couple of things. The white paint, for some reason, really helps our canvas or our paint become more opaque. And you guys are probably noticing as you're putting the paint on the canvas that it is a little bit transparent, okay? Especially if you're not mixing in any white here. So the white is really helpful for just covering your canvas and really just getting it totally, totally covered. Okay, so I'm just gonna I'm leaning down so that you guys can see this, and I can paint just a little bit quicker because I have a smaller brush. Okay, I'm just gonna grab white here and streak it in. Okay. So I'm doing really nice even brush strokes back and forth. You really want to try not to bow your brush strokes too much. And what I mean by that is like this. I'm going like kind of at an angle, like a rainbow. Okay, you really want to be up and down. Okay, really try to be really nice and up and down. And right now we're working on just our first layer. Okay, so you will still see your background, the background of your canvas kind of showing through a little bit, and that is just fine. That is okay. You want to, of course, cover all the white as much as you can of the canvas, but you will still, this paint is like I said, it's transparent, okay? So we wanna work in very thin layers, okay? So it's important that we layer this paint to get the effects and the look that we want, okay? So just remember that when you're painting this, okay? Once this layer is kind of a little bit drier, not totally dry, but just kind of tacky, it's going to be a lot easier then to apply another layer of paint. So I really recommend trying your best to use a thin amount of paint and really just streak it on there, really push it into the canvas, okay, and really spread it out. Let it be transparent because it's going to be a lot easier, especially when you're using browns, to layer up this color when it comes time to do our second coat here. If you have gobs of paint on here, it's not going to dry and you're going to keep adding paint to it and you're just going to get a lot of gobs and it's going to just take a long time for it to dry, and that can be a little bit frustrating. So I'm going to start just working on my edges here. Just doing a combination of the two browns together. Our next coat for our background is actually going to be with a little bit of black, and it's going to really darken things up a little bit. So when you have your first layer of your background on here, make sure that you can see both browns. You know, you can see a couple of different shades of brown. You have a couple of areas that are white. You see my white streaks in here. So just make sure you have some variation. That's the ticket here. It's just some variation. Now, when you paint your edges, it's just really good craftsmanship. You can paint them and then you don't have to worry about framing your canvas. You can just hang it right up on the wall or give it as a gift unframed. But when your edges are unpainted, it just feels a little bit unfinished. So always paint your edges. It's just good craftsmanship. Okay. All right. So I've painted my edges and my whole front of my canvas is now covered. It is just a little bit wet still, and that's just quite all right. It's pretty tacky, so it still has a little bit of wetness to it, but overall, it's pretty dry. Those white areas might be a little bit wet. So what I'm gonna do now, while my canvas is just a little bit tacky, is I'm gonna take a little bit more paint. And this time I'm going to start adding a little bit of black, okay? And now things are going to start getting really rich. So I might just take a little bit of black on my brush and pick up both of those browns. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to start streaking, okay? Now, one thing I want to tell you about this paintbrush as a background brush is you can turn it two different ways. You can turn it the wide way, where all of the bristles are flat against the canvas, and you pull and you get a nice thick wide mark, or you can turn it the other way, thin ways, and you can go up and down thin ways like this. Or here, let me get some black so you can see, and you get a really nice thin line. Do you see the difference there between my thick line and my thin line? I want you to practice going back and forth between thick and thin lines when you're doing your fence line, because what's going to happen is you're going to get some parts of your canvas that are going to start looking like the slats in between the pieces of wood that make up the fence, okay? And it's just gonna add more texture, and overall, you're just gonna have that really nice fence kind of feel, which is important. Okay, so I am streaking this brown on here. So in this area right here, for example, this is getting nice and rich and bold. I might take some black here, and I'm gonna go sideways with my brush, okay? And I'm gonna streak it from the top to the bottom. Okay, in a couple of areas. Okay, let it be kind of, organic. Doesn't have to be too perfect of a line. You can just let it be kind of wonky. There are no perfectly straight lines in this. This is more of a rustic looking fence, so it doesn't have to be exact. Okay. Remember what I said too about gobs. You really want to spread this paint out. That will really help us. Just let it get really nice and dry so that we can move on to the fun part of painting the sunflowers, which is going to be next. So while you guys are finishing up your backgrounds, if you want, you can paint anything you want to tonight. You could paint all sunflowers if you want to. You do not have to paint the echinacea flowers. I put them in there just because the yellow sunflower, it just takes a little bit more time. It's a little bit more complex and complicated. And also the complement on the color wheel of yellow is purple. And so the echinaceas are just really nice in contrast. And I just thought that they just looked really nice next to each other. But if you just love sunflowers, just paint sunflowers tonight. I'm going to teach you how to do one, and just paint a bunch of them if you want to. You're more than welcome to do that. Or if you don't like the sunflowers, you just like the echinaceas, do the opposite, okay? Just paint those echinacea flowers. Or, it's really whatever you want. You can make this totally anything. If you have a certain kind of flower in your garden that you love, then by all means, paint those. We're going to be painting them a little bit more pinker tonight than in the original painting, unless at home you happen to have some extra blue paint, because some of you do not have blue. And once again, I'm really sorry about that. My excuse is that it's been really fun here this week, but it's also just been a little bit chaotic. Some of you know we're getting ready to open up a smoothie bar, and that's just required a whole different kind of brain for us this week. And we just feel nuts, honestly. Like I said, it's been fun, but it's just been a little bit, crazy. So when you are done, when you have your background totally covered, don't put your brush in the water yet, and don't grab any more paint, but just take your brush and press it against your canvas and go up and down, back and forth, really kind of quickly. What that's going to do is that's going to continue to press the paint into the tooth of the canvas, and it's going to help it dry quicker because it's going to pick up any gobs of paint you might have. So you see, I'm not stopping. I'm just going all the way across my canvas, all the way across with the wide side of my brush, all the way over, and then all the way back, just back and forth. Once again, I'm not picking up any more paint. I'm just helping this dry. We want this to dry, okay? Especially when we start painting with some yellows, which is what we're gonna be doing first, okay? We really need our background to dry, okay? So I'm just gonna keep on going back and forth here, getting this dry. Kind of moving the paint around a little bit, which I like it kind of lifted some paint right in this area. And I think that's really pretty. It's like I tried shading without actually trying to shade. It just kind of applied like some pretty light that might be hitting the fence. So let that happen. It's really pretty, okay? Another thing you can do, or when you are done with that, you can just drop this in the water and forget about it for the rest of the night. But another thing you can do is one of these numbers where you just kind of wave it and let it get dry. Okay, that's something. Okay. Or if you have a blow dryer, that'd be good. Get your blow dryer out. So while your canvas is drying, you can kind of turn it around a couple of ways. Maybe originally you had painted it this way, but when you flip it upside down, you like that composition better. You never really know. I kind of like that better. And kind of look and see, where you might want to put your sunflowers. You don't have to put them exactly where I put mine tonight. Maybe you want 3 of them. So kind of think in your brain, where you're going to want your sunflower to be. I'm going to paint it like the original painting. I'm going to paint mine right up in here. Okay, so that's really the area of the canvas that you want dry first. Not worrying really about the rest of it, let that dry, but think about where your sunflower is going to be. Like mine's going to be right here, and so I really want this area to be dry first because I know that's where I'm going to be painting. So maybe put your attention there with your paintbrush, just kind of wiping it. Okay. I'm going to check across the top and see if anybody has any questions. Everybody looks like they're doing the wave dance. That's good. It looks good, Vicki. It looks good. Yep. All right. So one thing about a background too, you guys, is it is just a background, and the more we paint the flowers in the foreground, the more that background is going to disappear. So don't worry too much about having a perfect fence post, whether it's brown or gray. It's gonna be pushed back more. So we'll let our focus be more on the flowers and perfecting those. Okay. So like I said, when you're done with your background, go ahead and just put your paintbrush in the water. We're not going to be using it for the rest of the night. We're only going to be using our size 5 round. I call this painting a one brush wonder. We can do so much with this paintbrush. It's so cool. I'm going to show you a lot of different techniques and a lot of different ways that you can apply different pressures and different chunks of paint to get different types of brush strokes and different effects. So I love it when you can paint a whole painting with one paintbrush. I think that's super cool. So it is fun switching brushes around though too, but this is gonna be good, okay? All right, well, I'm checking. It looks like a lot of you are kind of just staring at me waiting for the next step. So I think I'll give it maybe one more minute or so, and then we'll start working on our sunflower, okay? So those of you with Ultimate Paint Kits who do not have the pale yellow in your kit, go ahead and mix just some light yellow, some white and yellow together. If you want to, you can grab just a little tiny droplet of green and mix it with that super pale yellow. Not enough to make a lime green, right? But just enough to make that yellow just a little bit. It's almost fluorescent, okay? You're welcome to do that. Okay, all right, you guys, we're looking good. It looks like you guys are all looking at me, so let's get going on this, okay? All right, so here we are. So I'm going to show you my palette here. So the first thing that we're going to do is decide where our sunflower is going to go, okay? And kind of just pick kind of a launching point to start painting all of our flowers around, okay? And so this is going to feel kind of funny because we're going to put brown paint on our brown fence, okay? But I do have a rhyme and reason to it, so just trust me with this. So I'm going to take my round brush, my small size 5 round brush, and I'm going to go into my dark brown here, okay? And this will actually work well too if your canvas is still a little bit wet. That's okay. This is going to work well for a canvas that's just a little bit wet. Because all we're going to do here is decide, okay, my sunflower is going to go right about here. And when I'm going to draw in a larger circle that is going to be the center of my sunflower. Now, this isn't going to be the final circle of my sunflower. This is just going to simply be a launching point for where we're going to start drawing in our petals. After we get all of our petals in, then we're going to go back and we're actually going to do the real center of the flower, and it's going to be a lot bigger, okay? So this is going to be a little bit on the small side, so don't be deceived by what I'm doing, okay? One thing I want you to keep in mind when you decide where this circle is going to go is I want you to make sure that you're going to have enough room out to the side of your circle to do the full length of the petal, okay? The worst thing would be to put your circle, the center of your flower, over here and not be able to go all the way out and make your full sunflower, okay? Unless you want to like wrap your flower around the side and that's something you're trying to do, then by all means do it, okay? So anyway, I have a little bit of light brown on the tip of my brush. I'm just gonna decide, okay, I'm gonna put my sunflower right here. And I know you probably can't see this from where you are because once again, I said I'm painting light brown paint on I'm painting dark brown paint on my dark brown fence, okay? I don't know if you can see that, but I have a circle. And I'd say that circle is probably about 1 inch wide, maybe 1.5 inches wide and 1.5 inches tall, okay? So there it is, okay? Rinse off that dark brown paint. And one thing I do when I wash a brush is I take it and I put it in between my paper towel and I pull, okay, especially on that metal part up here. That's gonna get all the water off of that metal part because you don't want any water droplets dripping down, but it also gets it out of the bristles too, okay? All right, so now we have the center of our flower. We're off to a good start. So now we're gonna start working with our yellows, okay? Now, I love this brush because this is the kind of brush that makes a beautiful flower petal. So I'm gonna jump into my light yellow, and I'm actually going to take my white, and those of you who had to mix a light yellow, don't worry about this because you already have white in your yellow. But everybody else, take a little bit of white and mix it in with a little bit of your light yellow, just like this. I'm right on the corner of my light yellow, okay? When we add white to our paint, especially with this brand, it just makes it a little bit more opaque and easier to work with. It's just nice and thick, okay? I don't know if you see, but see how I'm using my fingers here to roll my brush? I'm doing that on my palette, and that's just getting off any gobs of paint I have from mixing, and it's giving me a nice point on the tip of my brush, okay? All right. We're gonna do a little bit of drawing, okay? We're gonna do our petals now. Now, I like to map my petals out first. I have a tendency as I go to get smaller and smaller and smaller as I go around. So this is what I like to do. I'm gonna draw my first petal. I'm gonna go up as tall as I wanna go. I'm just drawing a line from the top into the center of the flower. And then on either side, I'm just rounding it out a little bit. So I go down once, and then on either side, I round it out just a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna do that at the top. Okay. I can see I have a really weird shadow when I get close to you guys. I'm gonna run across the shop real quick and close these blinds, okay? I'll give everybody a chance to catch up. Okay, I think that's better. I almost just grabbed my paint cup to take a big drink of water, so don't do that because my paintbrush is sticking out like a straw. My other cup has a straw. Anyway, if you have a drink next to you, you might want to put a lid on it, like wine or coffee or whatever, because I have definitely put my paintbrush in my drink before and then ruined a perfectly good cup of coffee. Okay, anyway, here we go. Let me pull you closer. So I did my first petal, okay? So once again, I pulled down and then I went out to the side, okay? I'm gonna go out way over here and I'm gonna come out. You can pull in and then you're gonna go to either side, okay? Then you're gonna go on the bottom. You're gonna do the same thing. Pull up and go on either side. And then you're gonna go out to this side. Pull from the outer edge into the center of your flower and then kind of round out either side. So you have something like this. When you have this, take a look at it kind of from a little ways back, like look at it and say, okay, are those petals gonna be long enough if when I'm done, I make the center of my flower even wider? So for me, my petals are not wide enough. I want to make them longer. And for me, my petals might be about 1.25 inches. So I'm gonna go wider. So I'm gonna go back up to the top here and I'm gonna go even longer. So I'm gonna just paint right on top of that. I'm gonna paint them nice and big. Okay, so check that out. See what you think. The reason why I paint 4 petals like this is because now I have given myself sort of a no-brainer. Now all I have to do is travel from the top and go around doing that pull in and then 2 brush strokes on either side without thinking, because I will now inevitably make every one of my petals the same length, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a second to get all 4 of those petals in, and then I'll show you how I move on from here, okay? You can make your sunflower as full or as bare as you want. There are so many different kinds of sunflowers. It's awesome. Some of the petals are more feathery and kind of bigger and wavy. Some of them are way more geometric, like this, the one that we're painting tonight. They're more pointy. Some of them are orange and red and brown. I mean, there's just a really wide variety of sunflowers. So whatever color scheme you paint with tonight, it's gonna probably resemble some kind of a sunflower. There's a lot of different sunflowers growing in front of the shop right now. I got like a variety pack. We have the variety pack in the shop if you need sunflower seeds, by the way. But they're all different. They're just beautiful. They're reds and they're browns. And so anyway, so I'm gonna move on to my second petal out here. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of, it's like a clock. I'm just gonna kind of go over about a minute, and I'm gonna pull down and out to either side. Okay? And then just like clockwork, I'm gonna come over here, just out a little bit more, pull down and out to either side. Okay? So just work your way around your sunflower. Down, out to either side. Then down, okay? And remember, we're using that light yellow, and you're gonna see your fence brown. You can see if you look close to mine, you see my fence brown kind of coming through. That's okay. Remember, we're working in layers, okay? And remember, you can be as full or as bare as you want to be with these sunflowers. Okay, so I'm a quarter of the way done. I'm gonna turn mine. You guys are probably working with yours like on your table. But feel free to move your canvas around. Sometimes turning it upside down while you're painting is really helpful. Okay. And you'll start to kind of get the hang of it. If you can pick up a little bit of speed when you're doing this, that might help you in the long run. It's really good to train your hand to take action rather quickly when you're painting instead of thinking too much about it. You don't want your brain to catch up with your hand and say, oh no, that doesn't look good, or oh, you're doing that wrong, or you know, all kinds of things that our brain likes to tell us when our hand is trying to paint. So if you can pick up the pace, if you're really kind of getting confident with these, I recommend it. It's good, especially if you're going to be painting with me, to really train your hand to and trust your hand that it knows what it's doing. Okay, don't let your brain tell you otherwise. I know some of us in this group can have more of an analytical brain, so this is for you guys. Okay. I can tell in my painting here, my petals are starting to get a little bit short because I have the one out here and this one up here. I know I'm going there, but so I'm just gonna make that one a little bit longer. Okay. It gets tricky. I don't want to stick my arm right in my painting, so I don't know if you figured out how to do this without sticking your arm in, but if you have, let me know because I don't know how to do that. Almost there. I'm assuming everybody in this group has probably gone, except for those of you who are in Florida, but everybody else has gone to go see the sunflowers. I think everybody's profile picture on Facebook right now is of sunflowers. And they're just beautiful. Super uplifting and perfect for exactly for what we needed right now. Just something really beautiful. Okay. Okay, so here I am. I've gone all the way around. Okay, my center is kind of wonky. It's kind of squarish. It doesn't matter. That's okay. Don't worry about the center of your flower right now. Just look at your petals, okay? Beautiful, Vicky. Nice. Very nice. Let's scroll across. Let's see. Oh, Natalie. Nice. Yep. Wonderful. Okay. All right, guys. Oh, Amy, it looks great. All right, so some of you might be ready for the next step and some of you aren't. If you are, let's keep moving because our paint is still wet and it would be really great to paint wet paint on wet paint for this next step, okay? So if you're not ready, just listen and know what you're gonna do next because your paint, when you're ready, your paint will still be wet and you can move on, okay? So it might feel a little bit funny to do this. Actually, I'm not gonna do that part yet. Let's go ahead and just take some of our golden yellow, not the light yellow, but the golden yellow. So I have not washed my brush. I still have yellow. I'm just gonna wipe it off on my paper towel or like kind of roll it. Just get some of that light yellow off and you can go right into your golden yellow. I'm gonna grab a tiny, tiny bit of white and mix it into my golden yellow, not to make the color lighter, but just to make it more opaque, okay? I still have a very, very rich, rich yellow here, okay? And for those of you with Ultimate kits tonight who do not have this light yellow, this next step that we're gonna do is only gonna make your sunflower richer and brighter. So you should still do it, okay? Everybody else, it's just gonna give us a little bit more contrast. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is from the center of my flower, I'm gonna come out, I might just start at the top here. I'm gonna come up, okay? And just kind of I'm like fanning, so I'm like flicking my brush almost. I'm gonna do it from the, let me see if I can do this from the side so you can kind of see, I'm just flicking. Okay, so my brush is hitting the canvas and then it's launching upward. You see that motion? So it's just hitting and launching. And this is a quick step. I mean, I'm just feathering this in. Try to get 1 or 2 per petal. Okay, and what this is gonna do is just make it so that the tips of your sunflowers are just a little bit brighter. The inner part of your sunflower is gonna start to get just a little bit richer, okay, a little bit thicker here, okay? Now you don't wanna fan so much that it looks like it's like almost another flower on top of this. You really want to fan per petal. So treat each petal like an individual here. So every petal, definitely see how that goes right at the center of my petal here. And you can have a couple out to the side, but really make sure that every petal is getting that nice bold mark, okay? And you can kind of just travel all the way around. Now, like I said before, you guys, there are so many different kinds of sunflowers. So we all might be painting a different kind of sunflower tonight. Like I said, if you want, come check out the front of the shop. There's dark ones and light ones and all kinds of different kinds of sunflowers. So that kind of made me feel better when I painted this the other night for a party and it just didn't come out anything like my original one. And then I looked at it later, I was like, oh, but it's just this kind of sunflower instead of this kind of sunflower. So it just made me feel a little bit better about my sunflower skills. Okay, so there we are. We just have another layer. Okay, the next layer we're gonna do is we're actually gonna add a little bit of brown. And this is gonna feel funny, but I'm gonna show you my palette here. Okay, so I have yellow on my brush. Okay, and I'm gonna take a little bit of this dark brown. Okay, I'm gonna bring it over to my yellow here. My 2 yellows even. Right in the middle there. And I'm getting this sort of, I don't even know what color this is. It's like a murky kind of color. Okay, it's almost like a tan. I might grab a little bit more brown here. Okay, so you want something kind of in the tan, golden tan realm. Okay, notice too, I'm rolling my brush because I just mixed. So I'm rolling my brush on the corner of my palette so I can get any of the gobs off. Okay, we're gonna do this again. We're just gonna go around from the center out, but just not as wide. I'm just gonna start right here because this is where my hand just lands. But I'm just gonna start in here and I'm just gonna pull out. And see, it's just another yellow. fanning out. You can even kind of hardly see it, which I like. I really love subtle mixing. If you want to get really technical, if you want to really take your time and not do a fanning technique, something else you can do is take your brush, pick a petal, and you can just gently press the paint up around the edges, kind of like making a parentheses. That's something you can do too. So lots of variation with this, lots of different things that you can do. You're probably noticing as you're painting, or maybe you're not, but pay attention to the amount of pressure that you are applying to your paintbrush. So if you're applying a heavy amount of pressure, you're pressing hard, you're probably getting a really nice thick mark, okay? But next time you go around, practice just giving a really nice thin, like lightweight mark and kind of see what happens. You'll get a different kind of a brush stroke, and that can be interesting, especially when you're painting florals. I think the more variation, the better. I mean, I guess I think that about all paintings, the more variation, the better, okay? So there I am. I'm left with this sort of like a sunburst, okay? Okay. All right, I'm gonna check across and just see if everybody's doing okay. Everybody looks really good. Pretty, really pretty, Vicky. You've kind of already done that. The next step actually that I'm gonna teach, it looks like yours is really nice and outlined and it had that really nice highlight. Awesome, that's awesome. Oh, Barbara, is that you? So pretty, so pretty. Nice. Awesome. So you guys, you can, oh, Katrina, I see, it's beautiful. I love your background. Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. All right, take a second and look at your petals. Make sure that you like their shape, okay? Because we're working with these now. These are going to be our petals. There's no going back. We're not changing them at this point, okay? So make sure you like their shape. If you need to make them a little more round, go ahead and make them a little more round, just by pressing your brush down and kind of using your arm to round out a little bit. Y'all, I closed my blinds, but there's like one sliver of light that is hitting me right across the face. I'm going to go try to close them a little bit more. I'll be right back. This will give you guys kind of a chance to catch up if you need to, and I'll show you the original painting as well. So you can see where we're at and then where we are going. We still have more layers. Okay. All right, you guys. So I still haven't washed my brush yet. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump right into my dark brown and I'm gonna draw out the center of my sunflower, okay? So like I said, I haven't washed my brush out yet, but I'm just gonna go right into my dark brown here. Just get a nice big gob here. And now I'm really gonna figure out how I want the center of my sunflower to look. So I'm gonna bring you guys closer here. I'm gonna go ahead and redraw the original circle that I had here and round that out because it's very square, okay? And I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna just make it bigger, okay? So I'm gonna take my brush and just sweep it over. Of course, you can keep this small if you want the center of your flower to be small. I like mine being big, almost too big. I think it's really whimsical and pretty, and I just like that. So I always, sometimes, not always, but I do tend to make the insides of my flowers a little bit bigger than they should be. So go as big as you want. I'm still going. And notice I'm doing it just by kind of spiraling, right? You'll definitely see your yellows. You can definitely see my yellows, right? Okay, and that's okay. I'm just gonna look at my canvas for a second so I can draw this a little bit more accurately. It might even feel like you are just smearing paint, and you might be, and that's okay. Okay, but smear it in a circle. Okay, we're just gonna let that dry. But like I said before, you know, this paint really works well in layers. So we just kind of got to get it to where it needs to be and try to get these shapes in the best we can. Okay, so I'm getting there. Notice too when I'm drawing a circle, you know, I'm pressing my brush up and I'm just lightly, I'm being very careful about the edge of my circle. I want the edge of my circle at the center of my flower to be nice and crisp. Okay. Okay. That's pretty round. Okay, there we are. Okay, so when you feel good about your circle, you can go ahead and you can clean your brush and get all the water off of it, but get all that dark brown off of it. And it's just, this is just the first layer of our center, so you may not like what it looks like, and that's okay. Like I said, it's just the very first layer. We gotta let it dry. So I'm washing my brush, getting all the water off of it. Okay, we're gonna take a break from our sunflower right now, from the actual face of our sunflower, and we're gonna put in a stem. Okay, we still have more to do on our sunflower. It is unfinished, so don't worry about it, okay? We still have a few more layers to do, but we're just gonna let all of this dry. That way when we go back, we're not really smearing paint around, but we're actually getting somewhere where we can lay in some nice rich color, okay? Is everybody doing okay? If you're not doing okay, tell me why and how I can help you make it better. Oh, beautiful. Megan's group.
Where do you find the picture on your website so I can have it as a reference?
Sure. If you go to the Humble Life store on Facebook, okay, you should be able to scroll down. Gosh, I don't know how many posts ago it was. Not very many, because I haven't really done anything on social media. Let's see. I can tell you, but it should be pretty close up to the top of our page. And Facebook just updated on my phone, and now everything is crazy, and I don't understand any of it. It drives me nuts. Like, just trying to get a handle on it.
Okay,
like,
I'll look somewhere. Thank you, Edna.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, but now I'm like, where is it? If you can't find it, let me know, anybody tonight, and I will just send it to you in Messenger real quick when we're taking a break, okay? I'm happy to do that. Okay, all right, you guys. So we're gonna work on a stem, okay? We're gonna totally change gears, switch over different sides of our brain here. So my brush is clean. That's great. I'm gonna show you my palette here. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some green, and when you start putting your brush in your green, you see how I'm just kind of dabbing it like this? This is just called activating your paint. It may have been sitting, you know, the air may be getting to it, so you're just activating it. So I'm activating my paint here. I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow, bring it over. I'm gonna grab a little bit of white, maybe that's too much white, and bring it over, okay? Just kind of let it be marbled. You don't want it to be too light, but we just want it to be interesting, right? You can, by all means, grab more yellow. If you like more of those limey colors, those more tropical colors, then add more yellow. Otherwise, just kind of let it be, okay? All right, once again, I have gobs on my paint, so I'm rolling my brush to get off as much as I can. Okay, cool. All right. So now we're gonna put in our stem, okay? Now I want you to just look at your sunflower, and I want you to look right at the center of your flower. that is where your stem on the other side of your flower is coming from. Okay, so that's where your hand is just going to kind of come down from. So here's the center of my flower, and I'm just going to kind of bring it down until it just kind of starts naturally coming out. And I like to make a little mark there to show me, okay, that's where my stem is going to come from. Now we're going to draw a straight line down. And for me, when I draw a line, I start my hand somewhere and then I look at where I want to go. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm going to come down, 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 and I want to come right about here. So I'm going to draw a line there. Okay, so I know I'm going to come from this point to this point. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trust my hand that it is in fact going to get me from point A to point B. If I don't look at where I'm going, I know that sounds crazy. I'm going to look at where I want to go. So I'm going to put my brush down and I'm going to look at this point down here. And I'm going to go quickly and look. Bam. Look at that straight line. Okay? That's something to practice. It's kind of a cool thing. All right, so that's obviously not how thick I want my stem to be, but once you have that, you know, okay, now I just need to grow my stem on either side, okay? So what I want you to do is I'm gonna actually put this on the table so that I have a little bit more control. I'm gonna take a little bit of paint and I'm gonna very carefully start at the top here, okay? And I'm just gonna bring it all the way down. Sunflowers, as you know, have nice, thick stem. So I'm going to be very careful when I come up behind my petals here. I'm just going to ease that paint down all the way down. You see the shape of my brush? It's really just pressing and it's pulling. I'm pressing down and pulling, okay? I'm going to do that on this side too. I might start at the bottom this time. And you can be fancy and you can wrap your canvas here. You can go all the way across the bottom. Get that bottom stem wrapping around. I'm gonna go back up. Now I will, I know I'm telling you to make a nice thick stem, but I just wanna remind you, the thicker you go, it's harder to make them thin again. So tread lightly there. You want it to be nice and healthy, but you don't want it to be too thick to where you can't go back, right? Now, if you do feel like you went too thick, let it dry completely. Okay, and once it's dry completely, you can go back with your background colors and you can kind of just fade it right out. Okay, so that's what I'm left with. And I know, I hope you can see, I'm gonna try to get real close. You guys see how you can see my canvas? You can see the brown of my background. That's totally fine. Just gonna remind you, we're working in layers. So that's why we wanna work in thin layers and let it dry in between, right? Okay, while we're here, and if you're ready, I'm gonna grab one more little point of paint. I still have a point on my brush, but I'm gonna do a leaf. And I'm gonna decide, okay, my leaf is gonna come out right here, and I'm applying just a tiny bit of pressure. I'm barely touching the canvas with my paintbrush. I'm just gonna kind of draw a line, kind of angling up and outward, and then I'm going to, at the end of that line, I'm actually going to draw a wide pointed teardrop. Okay? And once I have that wide pointed teardrop, I'm just gonna fill it in. Okay, so I'll give everybody a chance to do that. Okay, now when I have it filled in, I notice, okay, so my stem is just a little bit thin. It doesn't look like it can support that leaf. And as you know, sunflowers have big, beautiful leaves. So this stem has to be really healthy. So I'm just gonna thicken it up just a little bit. Not as thick as our stem, our big sunflower stem, but just our leaf stem, okay? Okay. All right, now sunflower leaves have those sort of like serrated edge to their leaf, okay? And so let me show you how I get that, okay? Now my brush has, it doesn't look like it, but I promise you it really only has like a little ball of paint on the tip of it, okay? I'm gonna start at the base here, and I'm gonna travel up and out and in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, and all the way to the tip, okay? Once I do that on one side, you have to do that on the other side. So I turn my canvas upside down. That's just the way my brain works. And I'm gonna do it again, and I'll show you it again, okay? I'm gonna get a little ball of paint. I come out, in, kind of like a Christmas tree, right? Out, in, out, in. Okay, all the way up to the top. Okay. Cool. So now you have your stem and your leaf. And they should be, you know, you should have put on pretty thin layers. So at this point, they should be pretty dry. They might be a little bit tacky, and that's okay. When you're ready, I want you to grab a little bit of either yellow or white or both, whichever. I think I'm gonna grab just a little bit of yellow this time. And I'm gonna just kind of pull it down my stem. So this is my brush. I haven't washed it. I have just a little bit of yellow on the tip of it. I'm just gonna take it and I'm gonna lightly pull it down and up. I'm being kind of sketchy with my motion, right? Kind of like we did with our fence post. And I'm just gonna layer in that yellow on my leaf and on my stem. So here's up close, here's what it looks like. Really no rhyme or reason to that, right? I just kind of streaked in a little bit of yellow. Then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna grab some green, and it could be that light green or it could be just the solid green that you already have on your palette, okay? The green that we haven't mixed anything with. That's a beautiful green. So your goal here, you guys, is to start just filling out your stem so that you don't see too much of your background, okay? Now I'm gonna remind you too that you don't wanna go too much, like if you accidentally, like I just kind of waved out just a little bit, I bowed out a little bit with my brush, and I'm tempted to just make the whole length of my sunflower just a little bit wider. So don't do that too many times, because you really don't want your sunflower to grow too thick, okay? But anyway, just go back with a little bit of white. See that white? It's popping. And I'm using kind of shorter brush strokes here, okay? All the way up to the very top behind that petal. And then your leaf too, okay? I'm not thinking too hard about this. I'm not doing any fancy shading. My goal really is just to get a nice range of color. That's what's interesting, is just really just a range of color. Okay, so yellows, whites. You can use the green that you've mixed and just the green that came right out of the tub. It's a nice, pretty green. So you'll probably notice at this point too, as you're painting, you know, I'm just gonna remind you, when you press heavily, you're gonna get a thick mark. And when you barely touch the canvas with a little bit of pressure, you're gonna get a thin mark, okay? So be practicing using those two different kinds of applications, especially like when you're doing leaves, okay? You can get some really pretty variation, some really nice textures without much effort, okay? It's just pressure, how much pressure you're applying, okay? All right. So that is what I am left with, okay? I can't really see my fence post anymore. Remember, that white really makes it nice and opaque and thick, okay? So I'll give you guys a minute to get that. Vicki, were you able to find the picture? Is that a no?
I said I haven't even looked.
Okay. How about I'll just go ahead and send it to you because now I can take a quick break and I'll just send it to you so it's easy, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like me to send it to them? I'm very happy to do that real quick if anybody wants me to. Okay. If you do and I didn't see you, go ahead and just send me a message on Messenger because that's where I'm going to be for a second, okay? And I'm happy to do that for you. Okay. That's if I can navigate this new Messenger. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Okay. All right, Vicki, it is sent to you. Y'all can add as many leaves as you want to your sunflower stem. They have a lot of leaves, but just for the composition of this painting, I only did one. And for the time it takes to do this painting as well. But feel free to add as many as you want. You could make a whole jungle down there. That would be great. When you are done with your leaf and your stem, go ahead and rinse out the green out of your brush. We are going to jump back up to the top of our sunflower and work up there. All right, you guys. So when you have a nice clean brush, we're gonna go back to the center of our sunflower. We're just gonna pick up some dark brown. We're just gonna add it another layer. So that should be pretty dry for you. All right, so just add in one more layer. You might still see a little yellow peeking through, and that's just fine because later we're gonna do something, a technique in the center of our flower with yellow to make it look like it has seeds in there. So this is just fine. Okay, just add another layer. Okay. I'm gonna wash that dark brown off of my brush. The last thing that we're gonna do to our sunflower before we do these darker yellow inner petals, okay, we're gonna add this really pretty little highlight to each petal. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is add this highlight. Then we're gonna add in these darker petals that go around, and then we'll work on the center of our sunflower. But we might like do the lightness here and then go work on some echinaceas and then come back and do these and then work on echinaceas and just kind of go back and forth because we want our layers to dry, okay? Just kind of giving you a heads up on our game plan. So if you can, go ahead and mix the lightest yellow that you can, okay? So whether that's the golden yellow, I'm just gonna take a little bit of my white and I'm gonna pull in some golden yellow, just a little bit, like that's too much. Or you can mix in this other yellow, whichever yellow you like better, it doesn't matter. Whichever it is, you just want some lightness here, okay? We're gonna be doing a highlight. I might just mix both together and see what happens. We just want something different, but something very light, okay? That's your goal. Okay, you wanna get the gobs off of your brush. You do want a very nice point on your brush. So I mixed my color, but then I took my paper towel and I sandwiched it and pulled so that then I was left with a very nice, like almost a pencil point. That's gonna be key for this next part, okay? So if you can see my brush, I'm trying to get in a spot where you can really see it. I have just a ball of paint on the tip of it, okay? That's what we want. We want a nice little ball for drawing. Think of it as like a ballpoint pen. Okay. So I'm really going to pull out each individual petal here. I'm going to start back up at the top where I first began, and I'm just going to take the edge of my paintbrush, and I'm barely going to touch the canvas because I really want a nice thin line here. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to pull all the way up, and I'm just going to go a little bit of the ways down, just about halfway, because what's going to happen is then I'm going to do this on my next petal, and it's going to cut that one off, right? Up, halfway down, up. And as you start to do this, you can decide if your light color is too light, okay? I feel like mine might have a little bit too much white mixed in. So all I need to do is just grab a little bit more of my pigment, whether that's the lighter yellow that I'm mixing in or the golden yellow. I might just take a little bit of both for the sake of it and mix those together and then keep going. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to the edge of my petal and travel up and down. That's better, that's a little bit warmer. Up and down, okay? This is just really gonna pull out the shape of your petal. You do not have to do this at all. If you like the way your flower looks, a little bit more, more whimsical, a little bit more wavy, a little bit more free, by all means, just leave it the way it is. If you like what you see, let it be. But I'm gonna go up and around. And if you're able to pick up the pace a little bit, start trusting your hand, you're doing the same motion over and over, okay? You can really start to trust your hand here, okay? I'm gonna turn my canvas as I go. If you get some thicker lines, like if you can see some of mine have thicker lines, like up in this area right here, like these are a little bit thicker, all you need to do is go back with a different shade of yellow, like maybe just your pure golden yellow, and just kind of shade it out a little bit, just kind of fill it out a little bit, and it'll make it kind of go away. Okay, so I'm just traveling all around. Takes time, patience. You're gonna just keep going back for more paint every couple of petals. And if that's what's happening to you, you're doing the right thing, because you shouldn't have too much paint on your brush, because the more paint you have on your brush, the thicker your line is gonna be. We wanna keep our lines nice and thin, okay? So like I mentioned before, if you have any lines that got too thick, just go back with a darker yellow, and you can paint right on top of those. Just add a little bit of more shading, you know, make it a little more interesting. Okay. Cool. I'll give you guys all a couple of minutes to get going on that. I'm gonna got something off with my flower. I gotta figure it out. I can't see it. Sometimes it's hard to see what you're painting. This is gonna sound weird, but it's hard to see what you're painting when you're sitting right up on top of it. Those of you who have painted with me before, you know that I always say, like, get away from your painting, get some perspective. It is truly hard to see what you're doing when you're sitting right up on top of it. You need to get some space. You'll probably like it a lot more from across the room than right up on top. So don't be afraid to put it across the room and look at it for a while and study it and see what needs to happen. Okay, I'm just adding in another petal here. I don't know if that was the right thing to do, or now if it's even more weird, I don't know. Hard to tell. Okay. All right, so once we have that part done, guys, go ahead and wash your brush. We're gonna switch gears and we're gonna work on our echinacea flowers, okay? These could be black-eyed Susans if you wanna paint them yellow. Your centers, you might just wanna make, instead of doing it with the golden yellow and the red brown that I think I'm gonna teach in, you might just wanna do it in like more of a darker brown or a black to make those cones, you know? But these petals are very similar to the black-eyed Susans as well, so you can do that if that's a variation. You can make this any flower you want. I love the shape of these petals. I think they're really interesting. I think they're cool. You can't go wrong with them if you're thinking like wonky thoughts. That's really the name of the game with this. So I like them because they're really kind of hard to mess up. The key to this flower, I'll just tell you, is do you notice the spaces in between them, like right up in here? You see how you can really see there's space in between each petal all the way up to the very center. Some of them touch, like those two touch, right? But for the most part, they don't. And that's really what kind of what pulls this flower apart from others. So remember that when you're painting, it is important if you want this look to really pull your petals apart and give them their own space. Okay? Okay. All right, I'm just gonna check across here, make sure nobody's dancing, trying to get my attention. Okay. Brenda, your group, you and Megan are doing okay? Okay. Okay, good. Good, good, good. All right, you guys. Great. Okay, so by now you've probably decided what color you're gonna want this next set of flowers to be. If you are gonna be, I'm gonna teach them in kind of a pinky color. If you do have blue at your house or it was included in your kit, you are more than welcome to mix up a purple. I can show you how to do that really quickly if you'd like. The key with this is white. So blue and red make purple, yes. But white is really gonna be very helpful for you. So I grabbed a huge chunk of white and I'm gonna bring it right over here, right in between my red and my blue. And both of these colors are super powerful. So tread lightly or else you're gonna use up all your red trying to get this color, okay? So I'm just gonna put in a little bit of red here and I'm just gonna put in a little bit of blue. So I have like 3 times the amount of white. Okay, and I can tell as I start mixing that's a little bit on the blue side, so I'm gonna need more red. And if I'm adding more red, I have to add more white. Okay. So you want a purple, but it's on the red side of purple, right? Okay, so that's how you make that color. Okay, for those of you who want to do some pink flowers, which is what I'm going to do, all we need to do is take a little bit of white and bring it over to your red and just mix in a little bit of red. Now you can decide how vibrant you want your pink flowers to be. If you want them to be deep, obviously you would mix in more red, but it is still very important that you mix white in, especially because we're painting on such a dark background. Now, if you don't like that shade of pink, mix in more white, or something I love to do when I'm working with pinks is I grab yellow. And especially because we have a yellow sunflower, this would be a really great way to create some harmony. So I have this huge gob of yellow and I'm gonna mix it in to my pink over here. And I'm gonna get this awesome flamingo pink. This is like my favorite color to pink with. So mix that in. Okay. And grab some white. Always grab more white. I give you a lot of white in your kits. So save that white too. If you're going to be painting with me in the future, don't throw that away. Keep that white. It's valuable. Okay. All right. I'm going to give everybody just a second Look at this painting. My husband's calling me, which is super weird and kind of rare for him to call me in a class, so I'm gonna answer this real quick, okay? Okay. Okay, sorry about that, guys. My husband's finishing up Sam's Club shopping and all the other places he has to go to finish smoothie recipes. So he needed me to look at an Excel sheet for him and tell him some costs. Okay, so now you should have your colors mixed and you should be ready to go to paint these flowers. You've probably studied the petals and you understand the space that you need for them. So you don't have to wash, but go ahead and just wipe this color off on your paper towel. Just take it, sandwich it, pull it off, get all the gobs off there. Now you have the color mixed on your palette, which is great, but we're gonna lay out our first flower just by doing some of the thin part of the stem, okay? So take a little bit of green. It can be any green that you want that you have mixed as long as it has a little bit of white in it. So if you like just the pure green, that nice rich green, just grab a little bit of white and mix it in there. Or maybe you like that more tropical green and you would add in a little bit of yellow, whatever the case is. So we're gonna draw in where our first stem is gonna be, okay? So this flower, it just comes up to right about here. So I'm just gonna, and these stems are a lot thinner, and so it is really important that you think thin thoughts and you barely touch the brush to the canvas. You really want a nice thin line here. And these stems are thin, so they kind of bend with the wind, which is great, so you don't have to draw a straight line, which is even better. So I'm just gonna pull down, and I'm drawing thinner than I normally would because I want to map it out first. Okay, once I have that, I can go back and I can kind of thicken it up just a little bit. Okay, so I have that. I'm gonna wrap it around, okay? It's okay if you can see your wooden fence coming through. We're gonna go back and do layers, okay? Now I love these leaves. These leaves are beautiful on these flowers. They're a little bit different than the sunflower. So what you're gonna do is I have a nice healthy amount of green on my brush. I like to call it jumping. I'm gonna jump off and down and kind of whip that out just a little bit, okay? And then my bottom line is just gonna meet that point right here. So I'm just gonna kind of meet that point. Okay, I'm gonna fill that in. Okay. I'm gonna draw that just a little bit bigger. I'm gonna have it overlap my stem. It was just barely touching it, it looked kind of funky. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna go to my next stem, okay, which is gonna be over here a little bit, maybe about an inch over or so. And I'm gonna draw it a little bit taller. I'm gonna start where it is, and I'm gonna try to draw a line there. Okay, now you wanna be thinking here, so I know that at the top of this first stem that I drew, I'm gonna have the top of my flower, the cone part of my flower, and my petals are gonna be coming out, okay? So I think my leaves, I need to be strategic about where I'm gonna put my leaves here. I'm gonna make this a little bit taller. I'm gonna put one leaf coming at the top up here, and it's just gonna be a line that kind of extends outward like that. And the bottom kind of smiles at you. It kind of has that smile curve. Okay, but it's up towards the top part of my stem. Have that shape. I'm gonna go ahead and just fill it in. So remember, you need enough room down here for a flower. And then right across the way from my stem, I'm gonna do another leaf, and it's just gonna come up, it's just gonna be an extreme sad face. And then my bottom line is it's gonna run parallel to it, and then eventually it's just gonna meet it at a point here. I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in. Okay. I'm gonna give you a second if you need to kind of flesh out these stems a little bit more, make them a little bit thicker. Add another layer to them. We have one more stem to do. And also don't forget, you might wanna wrap your stems around the bottom of your canvas also. So you wanna do that. Okay. If your green is not showing up super well on your canvas, you need to add a little bit more white to your green, okay? Okay. We have one more stem to do. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of paint. Now this stem is the tallest. The flower is way up here. Okay, so, and it kind of bends a little bit, it bows a little bit, okay? So let's see, I'm gonna turn my canvas on the side because it's gonna be easier for me to draw this line. I'm gonna start down here, kind of come up, kind of let it bow a little bit. Okay. Something kind of like that. And of course, remember, you can put yours wherever you want them to be. And if you feel like you drew any of yours a little bit too thick, like I got a little bit thick up at this one up here, let it dry completely and you can go back with some brown and you can kind of just fade it out there, okay? Okay. Okay. Now that we have that stem, we're gonna just do 2 leaves and they're up towards the top. So remember, you're gonna have a flower here. So you kind of wanna give yourself some space right in that area and go up, and you're gonna give yourself a leaf up here, and you might overlap part of your sunflower. And this is where you need to decide if you wanna go in front of your sunflower or if you wanna go behind your sunflower. If you're gonna go behind your sunflower, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna draw like an almondy leaf. I'm gonna stop when I get to my petal and paint around it. Now, if you wanna go in front of your sunflower, then just paint right on top of it. which is totally fine too. It just is going to tell you, is your sunflower more in the foreground or are your echinacea flowers more in the foreground? Okay, whichever you do, it does not matter. It just means that one of them is growing in front of the other one. Okay, I'm going to do one more leaf up here, and I'm going to do the other thing where I kind of jump up and I curve out and around. Fill that shape in. Okay. We have one more leaf down here, actually. I forgot to do on our middle stem. If you want to do it, you don't have to. But I'm gonna jump down here. You see where it is on our first stem? It's kind of across the way and up a little bit. And it's one of those where you jump up and out and curve it around, okay? There you go. Cool. I'm gonna give everybody a minute to get those leaves in. We're gonna do a little bit of shading next on our leaves. Okay. All right, looks like everybody's doing good. I'll show you guys the original painting for a second while you guys are finishing things up so you can see where we're at and where we're going. Take a look at those leaves and look at the lights and the darks. Okay, so you probably can see your fence coming through the first coat of our leaves, and that's totally fine because this next thing we're gonna do is gonna kind of fill it out a little bit better. We're gonna add some shading. Okay, so that'll be your next layer. So I have not washed my brush yet. I'm just going to grab a little bit of white and bring it over to my green so I get a nice light green, not too light, but you know, just some contrast, something different, or just a different green, honestly, is what you want. Every time you go back, you want to grab a different green. Now follow me here. I'm gonna do this part kind of quickly because I don't want you to think too much about this, okay? This is gonna be one of those parts where you're just gonna need to let your hand do its thing. I'm gonna travel from leaf to leaf, and I'm just gonna use my brush to lay down 1 or 2 brush strokes of light green paint that is just gonna hit the leaf just where the light is hitting it, okay? So I'm gonna start at this bottom one down here, and I'm just gonna take a little bit of this light. Let me make sure it's light enough. A little bit lighter. I'm just gonna go across the bottom of the leaf here and add a little bit of lightness there. But towards that middle, I'm actually gonna kind of come up a little bit, kind of like the leaf does. Can y'all see that okay? I kind of just mimicked the shape of the leaf. And what that's gonna do when we're done with our dark shading is it's gonna just make it look like that leaf is nice and folded, okay? All right, so I'm gonna jump over to this leaf right here, this next one that's right across from it, and I'm gonna do the same thing but over the top. I'm gonna start in the middle. I'm gonna press my brush down and up and go just across the top. That was 1 brush stroke, okay? Now I'm gonna travel back up to this one up here, and I'm gonna be very lightly, just give it a nice thin line right there, and then press a little bit harder as I get out to the edge there. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Very thin up towards the base where the stem is, and as I go out, I'm just gonna press a little bit harder until I get out to that tip. Okay. Moving right along, we're gonna jump up here. This guy has some lightness towards the top again, so I'm just gonna give it, let's see, just a little bit, just a line or so across the top. Make sure you tuck it behind your sunflower or in front of, whichever way it goes for you. And then this one, let's see, this one up here, It's just across the top also. So I'm just kind of copying that shape that I've already drawn. Okay, just adding a little bit of lightness. Just like that, you already have dimensional leaves. Look at that. You do want to wash your brush after this. We want to wash all the white out of our paint brush because we're going to be mixing some dark next, and we don't want white and black to mix with our gray because we will make a gray green, and we don't want that. It's super dull. We want vibrant color. So get all of the white out of your paintbrush. Holding that canvas up there really like works my shoulder muscles. I gotta stretch before class now or like work out more or something. Man. Okay. All right, you guys, when you're ready, I'm just gonna look across. Looks like everybody's kind of looking at me like you guys might be ready. All right, I'm gonna show you my palette here. We're gonna mix a nice dark green, okay? Now, the way we're gonna do this is we're actually gonna work with complements. So on a color wheel, the complement of green, which means the color that is directly across from itself on the color wheel is red. And red and green make brown, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do, well, anytime you mix complements together, yellow and purple, red and green, blue and orange, they make a neutral. That's just like the law of color. But what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take this red brown. I'm not gonna take the red. I'm gonna take the red brown, okay? It's close to a complement, and I'm gonna bring it over to my green, and I'm gonna let it make myself make a dark green, okay? So you want to start mixing that in, and you'll see you're going to get this like khaki kind of army green. It's really pretty. Okay, it's nice and rich. I know the tendency sometimes is to grab black and mix it into your color, and yes, you absolutely will make a darker color when you mix black, but you will make a duller color. Anytime you mix black with something, it gets dull. And we're going for vibrancy right now, and we're going for interesting, and we want our painting to be interesting and unpredictable. So I always like to mix my complements. I think it's just a little bit more fun. If you do have blue, you can always grab a tiny little blob of blue, and you can throw it in that color as well. If you don't, I'm so sorry. That was my fault. Okay. You could also, if you don't have blue, you could grab a little bit of your darkest brown, not the red brown, and throw it in there too, okay? But no matter what, no matter which way you go, if you mixed your red, brown, and your green together, you will get a really nice dark green, okay? All right, so we're just gonna add, honestly, just a very little bit of this, a lot less than we did of the white. We just need touches of this here and there, and then we're gonna finish up our leaves with just a basic green. Okay, so we're gonna do dark next. So follow me here just like you did with the white. I also wiped off my brush so I got all the gobs off because we just mixed a color, okay? So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna go right across the line of my lightness. Okay, create that really nice shadow. I'm just gonna put a touch of it right here in the center here across the bottom of my leaf. Okay. I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna do it again across the bottom part of my lightness. Just a little bit. Practice pressing very lightly and then starting to press a little bit harder and watch the different marks you make. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna put a little bit of this darkness actually just kind of right down in here. It's not really touching the shadow, but it's just kind of across the bottom part of the leaf here. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna do the same thing up here. Just put a little bit towards the bottom part of my leaf. And as well up here. Okay, now while you have this pretty green on your brush, I want you to roll a point in your green again so you have like a pencil, a point like a pencil. And I want you to come over to your sunflower leaf, and you're gonna draw the vein that kind of runs through that just by following the line of the stem up and kind of through it, but don't draw a straight line, kind of let it be a little bit wibble wobbly. And then I want you to pull that green down the stem of your leaf and into the stem of your sunflower, and very lightly, hardly touching the canvas, just run just a little bit of this color through your stem. That was almost too much, just a little bit, just to create harmony, because you don't want to introduce a completely new color to this leaf and not have it be anywhere else in your flower, okay? So once I have that line, I'm gonna come from the center of my vein and I'm gonna kind of just draw like these wonky lines that reach out to the tip of my leaf. And I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do 3 of them on one side. And they're leaning upwards, okay? Can you kind of see that? And I'm gonna mirror that on the other side. Okay, so I know my hand's in the way for a second, but let me just draw these in and then I'll show you, okay? Something like that. Okay, so now we should have that color on all of our leaves and our stems. And if you want to, you can put in a little bit of that. If you can feather it in really lightly, you can put a little bit of that on your echinacea stems. You don't have to, but I'm all for adding as much as you can. Okay. Okay. We're doing great on time, you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of wipe off that darkness on my paper towel. I'm not really gonna wash my brush. I'm just gonna take my paper towel and just kind of pull that paint off. I'm gonna go back to just the basic green that I put in your kit that's not mixed with anything. And I want you to just look at your leaves, and any area that looks too transparent to you, go ahead and just lay this color in. And it's probably gonna be anywhere where we didn't do a highlight or a low light shadow. Okay, so just put in this third green. You can layer this green, it's so transparent. You can layer it over your dark. If it's looking too much like you have these 3 different lines, if that's happening, layer a little bit of this green over your darkness and it will moosh it right in. I love that word moosh, I say that a lot. I need a t-shirt that just says moosh it in. Okay, so I'm mooshing that color in. Okay, and I didn't think too much about that. That took me all of like maybe 5 seconds just to kind of hit my leaf here and there, you know, pull it in, okay? If anywhere just looks kind of funky to you, just kind of weird or too, like it's sticking out too much, you can do one of 2 things. One, I challenge you to trust yourself and actually just pull your painting farther away from you, put it across the room and look at it, because I bet that the light and the darks are gonna read very different from across the room. They might actually look good. Sitting right up on top of them, they might not, but you do really need contrast to achieve this from a distance. And chances are you're most likely gonna be looking at this painting from across the room for as long as you have it. You're not going to be staring at it anymore. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt and go with high contrast, okay? And always, you know, if tomorrow you wake up and you look at this painting and you're like, whoa, I really went too far on that contrast on my leaves, well then just get your paint out and get your brushes out and fix it, okay? You can always paint this again. You can work on it again tomorrow, okay? Okay, I'm gonna let our stems dry for a moment here and our leaves dry. And I think we should jump back over to our sunflower for a moment. And let's just go ahead and finish up that sunflower. And then the last thing we're gonna do is put in the echinaceas. And the echinaceas go pretty quick. For another thing about the whole brain, I don't want you to think too hard about some of it. So I do teach each petal one by one, and I want you to follow me as closely as you can when we get there. We're just gonna draw them. We're just gonna dedicate and just do it, okay? But for now, let's finish up this sunflower. So when you can, go ahead and just clean your brush, get the green off of it. We're gonna be working with some yellows, okay? We're gonna do the inner part of the sunflower. You see that nice, rich golden yellow in there? All right, so they're just like a bunch of like mini petals, okay? I'll show you guys how to do that. We're doing great on time. This is awesome. It's 8:45, well, almost 8:50. My guess is we'll have this done by about 9:15, which is great because we started at 7:15. So look at us go. That's great. That's a first for me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you my palette. it's a mess, right? I hope your palette is a mess too. I'm going to be using this golden brown, but I want to make it a little bit richer. And those of you with Ultimate Paint Kits who have been using this golden brown or this golden yellow for everything, you are definitely going to want to add maybe more of this red brown than you're comfortable with, okay? Because you're going to want contrast. So I want everybody to grab a little bit of this red brown, and you can mix it right in to your golden yellow. We're just going to make a really just a rich, rich, rich yellow. Almost a brown, but a very, very rich yellow. Now, when we do this, this is really where some of the variations in sunflowers happen. The center of the sunflower, there's all kinds of different petals based on, you know, which sunflower you are painting or looking at. So when I was looking outside before class, there's just so many different kinds of petals. So you could do these petals that I'm going to teach exactly the way I teach them, or you could be more feathery with them and more loose if you want to be, or you don't have to do them at all. If you like the way your sunflower looks right now, then you don't need to add these. If you want to add them, go for it. We're still going to do the center of our sunflower in a little while. And so if you're just perfectly happy with the way your sunflower looks and you don't want to complicate things, you know, a lot of sunflowers look exactly like this. So you would be fine to skip this part, okay? But if you do want to work on it, here we go. So I've got my color. I've got my brush, and I've allowed the gobs of paint to stay on my brush, okay? So I'm going to hold this up so you can kind of see it, because this is kind of tiny, and we're gonna get real close here, okay? So just watch how I do this, okay? I'm gonna go around, and I'm basically just gonna draw little petals all the way around here. And they're just kind of like a funky little wibble wobbly shape. And I hope this shows up, because I have a very, very rich yellow here already. So I might have to mix a little bit more brown in here. Okay, that kind of shows up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of paint kind of a wibble wobbly teardrop shape. And I'm using 2 brush strokes. One I pull down and I wibble in, and the other one I just pull around. So one I wibble in, pull around. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm gonna start over here, 1, 2. And you notice I'm pulling outward and in, because the shape of my brush really just lends itself well to petals. So out, in, okay? Can you guys kind of see that? I know the contrast is hard because I already have a very rich yellow in the center of my sunflower, but okay, so I'm out and I'm in. I'm just gonna travel all the way around. It's kind of like a flame. It looks like a little fire flame, or like a candle. Okay. So I'm just gonna go all the way around. It's okay if you get paint into the center of your sunflower. No big deal. We can fix that. This is kind of a good part too. Like, you know, if you have gobs of paint, like I'll kind of show you where I just was. Do you see how my paint is so thick? That's great. You can do that. Whereas over here, it's a little bit thinner and I'm really just drawing the shape. That's okay too, but this is interesting to me. Okay, and we're at the end of our painting too, so you may as well just use this paint. It might dry a little, it might flatten out, but I think that's interesting. So I'm just gonna gob it. And I'm just doing that by just kind of pressing and pulling, really. Not even really 2 brush strokes if I'm gobbing, I'm just kind of doing 1. So experiment with that. Kind of see what feels good for you, or what looks good to you, you know? Okay, I'm almost all the way around, and inevitably I ended up smaller than what I began. I started with much larger petals, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna kind of fix those a little bit. Okay. So the next thing you can do if you want to, once you've gone all the way around, one thing that can kind of pull these out a little bit more is if you outline them. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, you see how they're kind of outlined a little bit. But if you want to do that, I would recommend waiting. So we'll go work on our echinacea flowers next and let this kind of part dry. And we can go back around and outline them a little bit. Or you might just like the way they look now, nice and organic and kind of natural. Okay, since we have yellow on our brush, let's go ahead and treat the center of our sunflower a little bit. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of, I already have that color on, I just grabbed a tiny little bit more. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna turn my canvas to the side so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna push it into the side of the canvas and press. See how it made that print? I'm gonna press. Okay, it's gonna feel kind of weird and it's probably even gonna look kind of weird too. But see, I'm just pressing. I haven't picked up any more paint. I am just pressing. Okay, it's kind of stamping. You see that texture? Okay, and that looks unfinished, and it should. Because next, I'm gonna wipe off this golden yellow, or wash it off, whatever you wanna do. I'm just gonna wipe it off though. And I'm gonna go into a light yellow, whatever light yellow you have. And I'm gonna do that with light yellow. And now we're really gonna get contrast and it might make you feel really uncomfortable because it's just blatant. It's like just obvious, right? See how obvious that is? And it kind of feels like you're messing up your sunflower. It also kind of feels good because we've been so tight with all of our brush strokes and now we're doing something kind of freeing. Okay, so just go ahead. Get all that nice rich texture in there. Okay, so when you're done, it should look something kind of like that. Okay, I'm gonna, while my paint is wet, that's why I'm kind of teaching this quick because you want to do this while your paint is still wet. I'm gonna take off all of the paint off of my brush and I'm gonna go into my dark brown. Okay, now I don't want gobs of dark brown on my brush, but I am, like I can show you, I am definitely going in and getting that paint, but then I'm just kind of rolling it and I'm actually just wiping it off. I don't want tons, right? I just want some. Okay. So I'm gonna go right back in to right where I was and I'm gonna just keep doing that. But now I'm doing it with dark. Now the trick here is you don't want to start blending these colors together. You really just wanna take this color and press it on and let it be. This is your top coat, this is it. So you wanna get on as much of this brown. So now I am kind of grabbing gobs of this color, so I lied to you. You do want gobs of this. Now I am just taking these gobs of this color and I am pressing it on. Now I'm leaving some of my yellow showing, right? But for the most part, I'm really kind of just kind of mixing it in, dulling it down, okay? Now I'm just kind of scraping some of this paint around the edge. Just a little bit, just kind of cleaning up my edge. You may not have to do this. Okay, that's the center of your sunflower. And that's something you could do over and over and over again and never stop. So at some point you do need to stop. Because I know you can keep blending and mixing, and so. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush. Finally. I'm gonna get it nice and clean. I'm still gonna let that other layer of my sunflower dry. I'm gonna go work on our pink flowers next, okay? Whether they're black-eyed Susans or you are gonna do the echinaceas or they're gonna be pretty pink flowers, whatever it is that they're gonna be. Your stems and your leaves should be nice and dry too. That's great. All right, I have a nice clean brush. It's got a pretty good point on it. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna take some of that mustardy yellow that we used in the center of our sunflowers. I'm sorry, in the smallest petals of our sunflowers, not in the center, but in the smallest petals, that inner ring. And I'm gonna use that to make my cone shape. All right, so I'm gonna decide where I want my flower to be. I'm gonna put it right in here, and it's gonna be okay if you start painting in it and it overlaps some of your leaf or whatever, it's totally fine. But this is not a circle. it's kind of a, it's kind of like a frowny face with like a I'm almost happy face kind of on the bottom, okay? You see that? So it's kind of like an oval, okay? But it's actually more of like an extreme sad. I'm gonna make that more extreme here. So it's like a rounded cone, and I'm gonna fill that in. Okay. You see that? While my paint is still wet, I'm gonna grab some dark brown. I haven't washed my brush at all. I'm just gonna take some of this dark brown and I'm just gonna moosh it into the bottom here. The bottom of my cone. Just give a little bit of darkness down there. You see that? That might be a little bit too much, but you know, lighten it up a little bit. This is gonna be one of those things we're gonna come back to. Okay. All right, I'm gonna get all that color off. I'm gonna clean my brush again, get all the water out. All right, and you should already have your color mixed because we mixed it before. Okay. Now I'm gonna teach, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna teach 7 petals, okay? And I'm gonna just go from one side to the other. And I want you to try your best to kind of keep up with me on these, okay? I think it'll do your brain and your hands some good. It's good practice, okay? So once again, I'm gonna be painting with some pinks. You paint with whatever color you want, okay? I do just have a little ball of paint on the tip of my very, very clean brush. I think that's gonna be very handy for you because you do want control when you do this, okay? Another thing I want to bring up is that these petals do not go all the way around our cone, right? So like we're going to do this one at first and it comes out the side. So we're going to be starting right in the middle but out to the side, okay? And we're going to travel around. And they're all, when you're drawing them, they're coming outward, right? They're coming down, they're coming out, they're like rays. So they're just, I want you to pay attention to your angles when you start drawing these, okay? Okay, I'm gonna set this up so I can look at it as I'm teaching you. Okay. All right, here we go. Now remember, I want you to think thin thoughts. I want you to draw with just a little bit of paint on your brush, and I want you to give space in between each of your petals, okay? That's really gonna make this flower unique and different than any other flower. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna try my best to describe some of these lines, but I probably will make up words and not make a lot of sense. So just watch my actions, don't listen to me, okay? All right, here we go. So here we go, I'm gonna jump out and this is gonna be like kind of a sad face. That's kind of leaning downward. I'll pull you closer. Okay, this is gonna be met very thin. And you can even just fill that right in. Okay. This next one is more rounded. I'm gonna skip over some space here and I'm still going out, but it's kind of like a sunflower petal shape. It's out and it's a little bit more round. Okay. Like so maybe. I'm not gonna fill them in yet. This next one comes down and around like so. And it kind of has a curve on it. So I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna just kind of curve with it. It's kind of weird. A little bit of a point at the bottom. Okay, this next one comes more straight downward and it's more sunflower petal shaped. Okay. This next one, we're on the 1, 2, 3, 4, we're on the 5th one. It kind of comes out and then kind of over and up, something like that. Okay, we got 2 more. This one is more sunflowery shape, but it just kind of droops a little bit. You see why it's important to just have a tiny little bit of paint on your brush and really press very lightly because you really want these nice thin lines. Okay, then we're gonna go out to the side here. This one's kind of crazy. So it comes up and then it bends. Not, you know, a sharp bend, but a nice soft bend. And then it's a little bit pointed and it comes up and inward. Okay, something like that, right? Once you have all of those, you can go ahead and take your brush and fill them in. It should only take 1 or 2 brush strokes to fill those in. I really like this pink. It's pretty. Okay, gotta fill in my last one. Okay, so we're left with something like that. So while your paint is still wet, grab a little bit of white. And if your paint is not still wet, you need to grab a little bit of the color too, but I just grabbed a little bit of white and I'm just gonna press it right into the inner part of the flower and just kind of feather it out a little bit. It should mix with the pink or the purple or whatever color flowers you're doing, yellow maybe, and create a lighter version of that color. And then I want you to very lightly kind of feather out a couple of just lines that kind of come out. So I'm thick in the center, and then as I come out, I just have like 1 or 2 lines. Thick in the center there, and just like 1 or 2 or 3 lines, okay? Now, if your white is too white, mix it with your color and get a light pink or a light purple. Okay, if it feels too crazy, just mix a light color. Okay, that's kind of what I'm left with. Now, if you feel like that's too much, you can go back with your color on top of it and you can just kind of push it back, okay? Okay, and there you have it. You did your first one. So that's really the name of the game for the next 2. Okay, if you want to, you can throw in a little bit more. I can see my fence coming through, so I'm just gonna give this another quick little layer. Just quick in there, okay? All right, so here we go, number 2. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start at one side and we're just gonna travel all the way around. If you haven't finished filling in or doing the white parts of your flower yet, that is okay. Just move on to this next flower with me, and just so you can draw out these petals while I'm doing it, and then you can go back and you can do the white parts of your flowers, because that you can do all 3 of them at the same time if you need to, okay? Because that's kind of easy. That's the name of the game, right? I'm gonna wipe off that pink and I'm gonna go into that mustardy yellow. And I'm gonna decide where I want my flower to be. Now my flower is kind of close to where my stem ends, so I'm gonna put my cone more up here. Okay, I might even actually angle my cone more this way. Okay, so it's that sad face on the top, very sad face, and then kind of like I'm almost happy face at the bottom. Okay, since we have that color on our brush, you may as well go back down to this one, the first one we did, and just hit it with another layer just to create that richness, right? Let it pop. I'm gonna wipe that yellow off or wash it off, whatever you wanna do. Okay, and we're gonna go into our pink again. Okay, remember you want just a little bit of paint on your brush. You want a nice pencil point. All right, so this first petal, kind of like this one on the last flower, is really long and thin. So I'm gonna jump out and I am, let's see, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go behind my sunflower. You decide if you're gonna go in front of it or behind it. My original painting didn't even touch my sunflower, so that might be the case for you, but I'm probably going to touch it. So I'm gonna go out and over. It's just a very thin one, and it goes behind the flower. It's very similar to this shape here. You just can't, it's just a little bit thinner. Okay. Now these get a little bit more plump, these next couple. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna jump, let's see, I'm gonna jump outward and be really nice and long. Okay. And this one comes around. And meet it. It just comes to a point back here. Okay. We're gonna kind of start coming downward now. So this guy, he's more sunflower shaped. Kind of weird. It's like a point to him, kind of rounded in the middle. The next one is more sunflower shaped, but not as wonky. He's just kind of down, like so. And even still, the next one is very sunflowery shaped too, just more of a long teardrop. I'm overlapping my flower or my leaves, that's just fine. Okay, I have two more. This next one kind of comes out to the side. Okay. And now this last one, it actually folds behind. It folds behind the petal. So let me show you how to do that. It's a paint. Okay, so I'm gonna come up. I'm just gonna angle up. Or, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna come out straight and then I'm gonna fold down. So I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna come down. Out, down, and it's gonna just come behind this petal and it's gonna pop out the other side. And it might be hard to see because it's all one shape, right? So it might be hard to see because we don't have shading. So I'm gonna go back over this first, put the petal I did that goes in front of it and just make it nice and bold and thick so that I can see that there is something going behind it and bending behind it. All right, so take a look at your flower. See, like I wanna make this one a little bit longer. I think I wanna make all of my petals a little bit longer. To me, these got a little bit short. You can go back and you can put on another layer of paint and then go back and do that white thing. Where we take the white paint and we feather it towards the in part of it, the inner part of the flower, and then you carry out a couple of brush strokes of that white paint. Okay. That one feels kind of funky. This time I'm just gonna actually grab a little bit of white paint and mix it. Okay, do some lightness. I'm doing that lightness. Okay, here we go. Second time around, it doesn't take as long to do. Okay, there you have it, flower number 2. We're doing great. We got one more flower to go. I'm gonna wipe off this pink paint. So we're gonna go into our mustard and do our cone. All right, so it's your last flower, so you can decide where you kind of want it to go. Mine's kind of coming up this way, so I'm gonna put its cone right up here. Okay. While I have this color on my brush, I'm gonna go back to this one. Give it some more, and even this one. Okay. If you want to, you can even add a little bit of white to your brush, and you can smear that on towards the top part and give it a little bit of a shadow, or a highlight rather. You can't really do it on this one we just painted because it's still wet. But anyway, that feels a little dramatic. That's better. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush And we're gonna go around on our last flower. Second. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's see. Because mine is bending so far over, a lot of my, or at least my first 2 petals are gonna be tucked behind my sunflower. But you can see in the original painting, no flowers were tucked behind sunflowers. So this one just got a little bit crowded, okay? So do what you need to do to make your composition work. I'm grabbing a little ball of paint and I'm gonna start on this side and I'm gonna work my way around again. Good luck not putting your hand in your flowers like I'm about to do. I'm just gonna have to like take one for the team here just so I can show you this. But maybe you turn your canvas upside down or to the side, or maybe you're able to come in at it this way or something. So maybe I can actually come in at it this way. It's gonna be just kind of funky. All right, here we go. I'm gonna come out to the side and I'm gonna go outward. It's more of like a straight outward. And this first one is always just kind of very thin. And you're really not gonna see mine, but it would come out, come to kind of a point and come back in. Okay. Next, I'm gonna leave space. Remember to leave space. This one kind of comes out and it kind of comes out and curls downward a little bit. How do I do that here? Let's see. Kind of bows out and in like that. Okay. This one is a nice thick sunflower petal shape. So it's nice and rounded, nice and full. This next one is 2, comes out, nice and rounded and full. And this one kind of reaches, it's kind of out, angles downward a little bit and curls itself back in. Okay, let's see. So there's 2 more petals left. So I'm gonna do this next one. I'm kind of getting close to the top of my canvas here. So I'm gonna do this next one. I kind of come up and it kind of bows out a little bit. Comes in, meets. This last one bends behind the last petal, kind of like in this flower that we did. So it's gonna come up, bend, behind, and peek out at the other side, okay? So once you have all those shapes, you can fill it in. Okay. You can kind of adjust your petals to be, you know, different lengths if you need to. Kind of take a step back and look and see, make sure that it works. Okay, while your paint is still wet, you want to go in and grab a little bit of white or light pink or light purple or light anything that you're using. And then do that inner part of the flower. And once again, I'm just kind of feathering a little bit of lightness right towards that cone. And then I pull 1 or 2 little white strands out of my petals. All right, just kind of pulling it out. Okay, and if that feels too much, remember you can go back with your paint, your original color of your flower, like the pink or the purple or whatever. Like that's a little bit too harsh up there, right? I'm just gonna take my pink and I'm just gonna paint right over it, blend it right back in. It's a game of push and pull. Okay, guys? And there you have it. we're gonna do the last thing on our sunflower, and then that's it. We've done the whole painting. I'm gonna work these just a little bit more, give you guys a chance to kind of finish up on these two. If you need to go back to any of your others and add a little more variation. And I always think, I mean, no painting really is ever done. You can always work on these. You can always pull this back out, and you can always add more details and more shading and just more color. You can add more flowers, more leaves. I mean, really, you can really make this your own and do your own thing. You've learned all the steps. You've learned the techniques, so you can apply it however you want. Okay? All right. I'm gonna wash my brush. So when you're ready, go ahead and wash your brush. The last thing that we're gonna do is just outline these inner petals. And I will show you how to do that, and then you guys can take your time doing that. It's very easy to do. What you want to just make sure of is that you have a very clean brush. There's no water, especially on the metal part of your brush. And you see how pointed my brush is? It's very, very pointed, okay, like a pencil. That's very important for this part because as you can see, these lines are very teeny, teeny, tiny, right? And they do really just outline that mustardy yellow color. So that's important. So kind of very similar to what we did out here, where we did our very light yellow color, kind of highlighting all of the petals. It's gonna be the same thing. Okay, so I just used dark brown, just straight dark brown. I didn't mix anything into it. I didn't do a thing to it. I'm just gonna angle this down. I think it's a little bit easier for me to show you this way. You can kind of see that. And all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start from the inner part of my sunflower. And I'm just gonna come out and I'm just gonna draw that shape. Just right around. Right around. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. Get more paint. You probably notice I just have a little ball of paint on the very tip of my brush. And once again, it's one of those things, you're gonna get good at it. And if you feel confident, kind of pick up the pace a little bit. Try to go a little bit faster and see what happens. You're training your hand to do it. You're teaching, you're learning right now. And so don't let your brain get in the way. All right, my paint's getting a little gunky. You know the shape, it's like parentheses. Just over and over, back and forth. But it is very important to keep a nice point on your brush. Okay. And we're almost there. And two, if you make any lines that are just too thick or just too dark, let them dry completely. And then go back with the yellow, any yellow. And then you can kind of go back in and ease up on some of that darkness. Okay, so I might ease up in here a little bit. Okay, it's all just a game. Push and pull, back and forth, until we make something that we like. All right. I think that's it, you guys. I think we did it. Okay, so take a look at your painting, look at your sunflower. You wanna check for evenness, you wanna check for symmetry. This one's a lot more symmetrical. I'll show you this one. You can always go back and add more texture to your centers. Go back to your top echinacea flower and add a little bit, another layer of that mustard color. okay, because we did that on these two down here. So you want to add another layer up there. And get some distance from your painting too. Get some space, look at it from across the room or give it to your friend. And, you know, it's gonna look so much different from farther away, okay? So it's really important to look at it so that you can really see what you're doing and what you've accomplished, okay? All of you guys did a great job sticking with me tonight. Thank you so very much for coming. I really appreciate y'all supporting us through all of this and continuing to paint with me. It's been a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know, oh, Misty, it looks great. Yeah, you guys show me your paintings. I would love to see them. I would love to see them. Oh, Vicky, it looks awesome. Great shading. Really great. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Barbara, yep, awesome. Brenda, it looks great. It looks great, you guys. Gloria, it's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So, oh, Mabry's group, I can see them. They look good. They look so good. Thank you guys so much for coming. So please send me your final painting. Send it to me in Messenger. That's the way we've been talking. I guess some of you have been emailing me too, so you can send me an email. I'd love to see how this came out. I'd love to see your group. If you want to take a group photo, or if you want to show me what your painting area looks like, show me your palette. I miss being with you, so I miss the experience of sharing in what our palettes look like. Like, this is what my brain looks like, you know, and I want to see what your brain looks like, because we all have different ways. This is my paper towel. Like, I'm more of this kind of a person, but some of you might be like all over the place, or some of you might leave little dainty marks. So I love that kind of stuff. So share that with me. I want to see, I want to know. But please send me a final product of your painting. I want to see how it came out. I'm sure it came out great. You guys did a great job. I think I mentioned before, some of you already have Ultimate paint kits, but those of you who do not and think that you might be painting with me for a while, I recommend getting one. You will never have to return brushes to me again, and you will never have to come pick up a kit. The Ultimate Paint Kit comes with a pint size of every color that we use. It comes with your very own brush set of 11 brushes that you never have to give back. It comes with a paint pen, and it comes with 3 canvases and 3 classes online. And it's $100, and you can pick any 3 classes. It can be the next 3 in a row, or it could just be, you could just watch and see what's kind of coming up, and if you want to join those. After you have used up your 3 classes for you are only $10. You're just going to pay for instruction. You no longer will have to pay $15. You can just pay the $10. And then if you need to buy more canvases, I can sell you 3 canvases for $10 also, okay? So that's just the thing about the Ultimate Paint Kit. If anybody is interested in getting one of those, let me know. I'm gonna be placing an order for more supplies pretty soon, and I can lump that into my order. If anybody has any questions about anything, or any tips or anything like that, send me a message in Messenger. Also, I'm going to be sending out another survey. For those of you who have already done it, great, you can ignore me. You don't have to do it again unless you have any more tips and suggestions. But those of you who have never gotten it or just didn't get to do it last time, please go ahead and fill that out. It'll only take you about 5 minutes, and I would love your feedback. I want to know what's going on. Once again, you're not here with me, so I can't just talk to you and hear kind of what's going on and what troubles you and what works well. So this is a good way for me to know those things, okay? Last thing I'm going to say to you is please return your paintbrushes. If you can, it would really be helpful if you could turn them back to me no later than Friday. That way I can get kits put together for other people who might want to pick up on Friday, and I can get those to them quicker. There's just been so many people in classes, which is so awesome, but I'm just running out of paintbrushes quickly, and And so anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So thank you again. If you want to return your paintbrushes after store hours, you are more than welcome to just leave them on the patio of our shop. Just tell me, send me a quick message and say, hey, April, I left them in the teapot, or I left them under a pot, or wherever you left them, just so that I know and I can grab them when I come into the shop next, okay? Otherwise, just come on in. I have a blue bin here that says return brushes, and you can return them that way too. I lied to you. I do have one more thing I have to tell you. I do talk a lot, huh? For those of you who don't know, I kind of mentioned it before, but we are opening up a smoothie shop here in the Humble Life. And Saturday, this coming Saturday, is going to be our first day. It's going to be, we're going to have samples of the smoothies all day, and we're going to have giveaways, and we're just going to be here kind of hanging out. And I would love for you guys to come in and try that. It's going to be really fun. It's just going to add a whole nother element to the shop. So we're excited about that. We're prepping for that. The patio is going to be ready. And it's been feeling really good outside. Like that, like weird kind of cold front came through last night and it stuck, which is great. So come get a smoothie, sit out on the patio. My dream would be, you know, eventually to have little watercolor sets that you can come and borrow and sit out on the patio and practice watercolors and drink a smoothie and just have all the colors around you and kind of get lost in that. So anyway, that is all. I promise. You guys have an awesome night. You can go ahead and unmute and paint all night if you want to. Like I said, you can keep going on this forever, but whatever you do, please just send me your final photo. I would really love to see how it came out. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so very much again. Have a great night. I can't wait to see your faces again. And stay tuned for what painting is going to be next. Oh, hey, Diane. Hey, that looks awesome. That looks awesome. Beautiful. You guys, everybody really did such a good job with your echinacea flowers. That's really great. Really cool. Hey, Amy, it looks so good.
We had a great teacher. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Vicki. Thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. You guys have a great night. I'll see you later. Send me photos. Bye.